Hooters. This once thriving franchise is heading to the direction of filing for bankruptcy. Hooters in its prime was the go-to destination for single men or recently divorced husbands. That was a joke. But for real, Hooters used to be so popular that you could find it in pop culture movies like Blended and Big Daddy. I remember there being way more like Adam Sandler movies, but I guess not. But regardless, the impact that franchise had was extremely massive, but sometimes not so positive, being in a ton of controversy throughout the 40 years that the company has been around. But let's start from the very beginning and the birth of Hooters. Hooters was created in 1983 by a group of businessmen who would later be called the Hooter Six, obviously because there are 6 of them. These guys really didn't have a clue what they were doing when they started. They were just friends with similar backgrounds in business, and they wanted to open up a restaurant. The first Hooters restaurant was opened in Clearwater, Florida, on the premise of the restaurant focusing on customers' dining experience and, of course, sports. And also, the biggest thing Hooters would be known for, which was the Hooter Girls. The Hooter Six focused on hiring young, attractive servers to help gain customers. These servers would wear the iconic white tank top with the Hooters branding, along with short shorts. This strategy of having a target demographic of mostly men helped Hooters become extremely popular in a very short amount of time. You see, no one was really doing this type of marketing at the time, and the Hooter Six actually pioneered the restaurant concept, which I feel like was only used by them, but I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments down below. Now, because this marketing put them on the map and the logo and name were quirky and easy to remember, Hooters started to expand. But this expansion only happened after the Hooter Six sold the rights to Hooters of America, a year after they opened the doors to the very first Hooters in Florida. Now, because Hooters was known for their Hooter Girls servers, issues started to arise for the company in the 1990s, when in 1997, a group of men would actually sue Hooters for not hiring them as servers due to their gender. Of course, Hooters would settle this case for $3.75 million, but on the agreement that they'd open more opportunities for male employment. But not as servers. Hooters instead focused on bartending and hosts for men, while keeping the servers strictly to women. This lawsuit didn't seem to hurt them that much, and in fact, I think it actually helped them get even more popular. By the mid-2000s, Hooters bloomed as a franchise, having opened over 400 restaurants. But this wouldn't stop them from getting into a controversy. As more doors opened, so did more opportunities for the company's ethics to be called into play. In 2010, a Hooters employee based in Michigan filed a discrimination lawsuit against Hooters after allegedly being placed under weight probation. She alleged that her manager told her that she had 30 days to slim down and fit the mold of a Hooter girl, even though this lady was already around 130 pounds. But they allegedly gave her an ultimatum: lose weight or get terminated from her job. In court, a Hooters representative would state that the weight requirement wasn't specific, but that the company did want to keep the image consistent with its brand all across the board. So pretty much, they didn't tell her how much weight she needed to lose, but they did want her to lose weight to look like the other Hooter girls. The case was ultimately settled privately outside of court, but this brought more eyes onto the company for all of the wrong reasons. But again, this would only further the popularity, because getting more eyes on yourself, regardless of if it's positive or negative, with the restaurant motto, it only brings more men into the door. In 2009, Hooters would once again be sued for gender discrimination. Remember when I stated that Hooters tried to create more opportunities for male workers, but kept it strictly to bartending and being a host? Well, this would constantly come back to haunt them, because this was just one of a bunch of lawsuits against the company for not allowing these men to be hired as servers. Almost every one of these cases were settled outside of court. Well, when you strictly make only women as servers, you are bound to get sued a bunch of times along the way. A huge issue that Hooters faced, especially at the very beginning of 2017, aka the year of the MeToo movement, was failing to change with the times. You see, people change, and the same generation that loves seeing these Hooter girls in their iconic dress code aren't the same as the new generation who are all about women empowerment and women equality in the workplace. Now, obviously, when you base your whole business structure off of girls wearing this type of clothing, then you are bound to be called out for it. And that's exactly what happened to Hooters. But this wasn't anything new for Hooters, to be called out for over-sexualizing and objectifying women. This has been called into play throughout the whole time that they've been around. But the Me Too movement started to put way more heat on the stove and started to cook the owl. So what did Hooters do? Well, in response, in 2018, they tried to change their image and opened a spin-off restaurant called Hoots, which was more family friendly and more of your cookie cutter restaurant. It also allowed male servers to work along with female servers, which was a shocker, but it was a step in the right direction to bring Hooters into the modern times, which it eventually did, while keeping its target demographics separate by keeping Hooters as its staple restaurant and Hoots just as a spin-off. But by this time, business already started to slow down for Hooters. There were so many other restaurants which offered the same menu items and sports on TV that weren't engulfed in backlash because of the harassment towards its servers. And these other restaurants were actually family friendly, unlike Hooters, which was a niche brand at this point. And even if they did try to switch to a more family friendly approach, Hooters is synonymous with objectifying women. And once you get a label like that, it's extremely hard to change that reputation. Hooters was constantly being called out for living in the 1980s and not changing to societal norms, but they just didn't listen to the criticism and actually doubled down on this. In 2021, Hooters actually changed their dress code again, but this time it had tighter tank tops and shorter short shorts. Servers went on TikTok to voice their concerns and frustrations, and some of them even quit their jobs because of the dress code change, because it was even more about objectifying women than it ever was. Because of the backlash, Hooters said that it wasn't mandatory to wear the new dress code, but you still couldn't get any more tone deaf than that decision. It was pretty much self-destruction at this point, because they were constantly being called out for objectifying women. But then they make it even worse with even worse dress code, which is again just putting more eyes on the brand, which I feel like maybe they thought that this was a good idea, because if they were able to change the dress code, and maybe if it wasn't even a permanent thing, but if it got people talking on TikTok, then maybe they felt like it would be like history before it, where the more drama and controversy that they were in would bring more people into the door. But I feel like this didn't pan out the way that they thought it would. And with the new dress code policy, they'd also be called out for discrimination against black people because of the different types of hairstyles that they weren't allowed to wear while they were working, which targeted mostly people of color.
So I'm at work right now. Obviously, I'm allowed to work at my normal store because this is not a rule that literally any other Hooters in my region follows. We're allowed to have box braids. We're allowed to have highlight. I posted on my Instagram story last night the Hooters policy. As you can see, there are rules as to when you can send a Hooters girl home. But under state and work, it says Hooters girl has hair that is in style, that is not within style standards and needs time to fix. Hooters girl will be given 2 weeks to change their hairstyle. So regardless, if my hair was out of Hooters girl image, I should have been allowed to work and I should have never been sent home. As you can see, this is the 2022 updated hair policy. Nowhere does it say that I am out of Hooters girl image or that my hair is not Hooters girl's image. It just took this one manager, this one GM of one store to send me home and deny me work. She's the only person, the only manager. Like I said, I've worked here 3 years. I have talked to everybody about this, and she is the only one that says that I cannot work. But because she's the GM of her store, there's nothing I can do. This is the approved list. As you can see, colors must be limited to shades of black, brown, blonde, or auburn. And then this one, more of the approved hair colors and hairstyles. And I mean, that is literally like my highlights. Like I'm baffled. And then here are the unapproved styles. And this is what he meant by like stark contrast, like it's just not blended together. And then this one, it just like the ombre just isn't blended well enough. But as you can see, it's not an issue here. Everyone wants to know the store that this happened at, and I'm not going to say the store that I work at for my own safety, but the store that this all happened in was the downtown Dallas Hooters, the world's biggest Hooters. It's like Hooters West End of Dallas, and I know that might like risk my job, but at the end of the day, what happened was not acceptable. As you can see, it's against the rules, and she was so big about following the rules. And if she can break that rule, this is not okay, nor will I be quiet about it.
Muscle tone and carries herself upright. None of these hairstyles are allowed.
Wow.
That Hooters dress code policy looks really discriminatory because half of the forbidden hairstyles are ethnic hairstyles. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're written up for wearing your hair like that and you're a member of a protected class, you definitely need to talk to a local employment attorney. That is so bad. Who okayed that?
By 2024, Hooters lost a ton of its popularity, and they had to start closing doors on some of their underperforming restaurants. Hooters went from over 430 restaurants to around 300 restaurants in 2023. And now it seems like they are headed to Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, for all my younger viewers or viewers that just don't know about bankruptcy, Chapter 11 bankruptcy pretty much is like hitting the pause button on a company's financial problems so that they could try to fix things instead of shutting down completely. So yes, Hooters isn't shutting down altogether, and this gives them time to try and come up with new ideas to bring some much needed life back into the restaurant. But if this downward spiral continues, or if this restructuring doesn't pan out the way it should, or if Hooters doesn't change with the times, I do feel like the company could start to close even more restaurants. Now, I'm not a businessman, nor do I claim to be, and nor do I have the certifications to be giving my advice for how to change or fix the image, but I will anyways. I think if you want to restructure, you have to rebrand at this point. Take that spin-off restaurant and make it your full identity moving forward. Leave the Hooters girls in the 1980s and 1990s and live in the 2020s, where objectifying women is wrong and where over-sexualizing women is wrong. I'd also say that they need to come up with a new concept to stand out. There are far too many chicken spots in America right now, from Buffalo Wild Wings to Wingstop. There is just so many places out there that can offer a better experience with better food. But I think rebranding is the best way to go because you will never shake that reputation of objectifying women and all of the harassment lawsuits unless you ditch the name. When I think of Hooters, that's all I think about is the synonymous dress code that is linked to the name. And even if you have never been there before, that's their reputation. I think they have to change that reputation. And the only way that they can change that reputation is by changing the name. Nobody's going to go to a restaurant that's now like, oh yeah, you know that restaurant Hooters? Yeah, I guess it's family friendly now. Because people are just going to be like, oh yeah, family friendly. The last time I saw it is that they were making the women wear tighter tank tops and shorter short shorts. But that's what they're going to have to face, is either change the name or be stuck in the same situation that they've been in. Hooters has always thrived off of controversy. They were some real life rage baiters and honestly, in a way, clickbaiters. Until the world started to change and go against everything that Hooters was about. I've said it plenty of times before on the channel, but this is what happens when you don't build your foundation on a solid base, and eventually over time, it'll start to give out. And that's exactly what's happening now. And who knows, maybe the Hooters 6 realized this and got out before it was too late. Because I do feel like the concept was started just as a funny joke. Oh yeah, let's get men in the door by having women wear over-sexualized dress code. But I don't think that was a staple idea moving forward. I think it was just to get more eyes on the business. I'm not really even sure how to change the restaurant into being something that isn't overdone or something new in America. And maybe that's the reason why they just kept the Hooters the way that it's been for so long. But I do feel like the first step in the right direction is changing the dress code to an actual dress code where everybody can be inclusive and have way more people in the door, and also cater more towards like a women base, because if you do that, then you can also bring the men in, because a man will go wherever his wife is. So yeah, do that. But anyways, have you ever eaten at a Hooters? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe to join the best community on YouTube. I am trying this style of content out, probably just for one video, but if you like it and you want me to make more videos like this one, let me know down in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.